going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So in this week's video, we're going to be working on the off-road drag bike. So if you haven't seen the little mini series I did on building this thing, I suggest you go back and watch that, kind of get up to date on everything I did on this thing. But in today's video, my plan is to install some seat suspension on the seat there, just to kind of give me a little bit of springage, just because as you can tell, this thing is a complete solid frame, so it is pretty rough driving it off-road or in any trails and all that. But I'm still waiting for that to get delivered, so that should be here in a few hours or so then we can start working on that. But the main thing I really want to start working on today is actually building some custom forks. So I actually have a spare set of forks right here that I'm cutting up and doing whatever to. So my whole goal is to kind of get as much ground clearance as possible out of this thing without making it look weird. And as you can tell, I got two 2x4s under it right now, and the wheel is just floating. So I only have like, what, 3 inches of ground clearance right now, and the frame is like really kicked down. So my whole goal is to kind of level out the whole frame, maybe by lifting it up by 2 or 3 inches, and doing that by extending the forks right in this area. So I ended up picking up some tubing today that will slip over these factory tube bars or whatever I'm gonna call them, I don't know. But ended up just cutting that down and then adding a section of tube in there that'll slip over on each side, weld that all up, and then I should be able to extend the forks pretty much as long as I need to. I'm gonna kind of just do it to wherever the frame is level and whatever feels comfortable on the seat and with the handlebars and all that. I might end up building some custom handlebars in the future that are just a little bit taller too, just because I realized my knees kind of get pretty close to the handlebars and make it a little bit more comfortable to ride. But today I really just want to get some forks built up and see what we can do with that, and maybe try to extend this up about 4 or 5 inches. So I'm gonna get this thing all mocked up by adding a couple pieces of wood under there just to see what my main height is gonna be and kind of where the wheel is sitting at that point, and then we can kind of figure out how long we're gonna need to extend the forks, and it shouldn't be too bad. So I'm gonna get to work on that, jacking this thing up, kind of mocking up everything, and then we'll see what she's looking like. So I ended up just pulling off the front wheel just so we can kind of get a better idea of how it's gonna kind of look once everything is extended out. And then I ended up just putting one more piece of 2x4 under it, extending straight up. So this is about, I'm gonna say, I think 4 or 5 inches of ground clearance, because that's what, 3, and then that'll be another 3.5. So, and we got about 6 inches of ground clearance, which is perfect. Levels out the frame nicely, so I'm super happy about that. And then with the front wheel pulled off, you can kind of get an idea of how the whole forks are going to look. The fender is definitely going to sit exactly where it was before. I'm going to extend it in this section just so I can keep that fender placement how it was with the wheel, because it looked good there and everything should look good now. Like the fender way up here for no reason. So I think I'm going to start to get to work on these old forks right here. Probably start chopping these in half and then figuring out how long I really need to extend. I kind of just measure from here down to the center there, or center of this hole down to the center of the axle. I think it's about 4 to 5 inches, so it shouldn't be too much. Just kind of extend this right out. And I got this nice tubing sitting over here. That should be more than strong enough, I'm hoping. It does seem a little bit on the thin side of me, but I'm guessing these forks aren't really made too strong either. So if anything, it'll be a lot stronger than it is, especially being slip jointed inside of there and then welded all together. So I'm gonna get to work, probably starting to measure some pieces up, get them chopped out of the pipe, and then we can actually chop the forks in half and start mocking everything up there. So I ended up measuring how the distance from the forks down to the wheel, and it was about actually 6 inches. So I ended up chopping 2 pieces at 10 inches long, so I at least had 2 inches of it slipping inside the pipe, and then I could weld it real nice, and it should be nice and strong. And got all my pieces cut, and I even chopped up the forks as well. So I got the top part here, and then I bolted on each section to the wheel just so I can make sure it's centered and all that. Got my 2 pieces that are 10 inches long. Actually, I think they're 10.5 inches long. I think I just need the extra ½ inch, but these pieces slip on the fork perfectly. If I can get it, all right, let me see, I can get it set up. They're just a little snug, but for once I actually bought the right pipe, so I can just slip both of these right on there and slip it right onto the forks there. And as you can tell, that will lengthen the forks out a good bit. So I'm gonna set all these up, probably end up starting to grind down all these edges where I'm gonna weld, maybe drill a couple holes so I can plug weld them as well, just to make sure they're 100% solid. Get this all straightened up, make sure everything's all lined up nicely, and then we can finally weld it up, and we'll have a nice pair of extended forks to mount up onto the bike here. I also have the fender mounts right down here by the wheel, so it'll still look like how it did before, just way taller. I just gotta end up modifying those mounts the same way I did on this bike, where I just kind of bent them down, cut off the front part, and then bolted it to the back. So super easy, shouldn't be too bad. But once this is all welded up, we'll get her painted up, make it look good, at least match the bike a little bit better instead of this weird color array. I have no clue. I actually got these off of spare frame, so it works. I got them for free kind of with the frame. But other than that, these will look a lot better, and then it'll actually extend them out too. And I'll still have my mounts for my LED bars on the front because they're like basically the same forks. And then hopefully by the time I get this all welded up, we'll actually have the seat suspension come in the mail, and then we can start mocking up all that and see how that's actually gonna fit on here, because I kind of just bought it. I'm kind of just hoping that I can get it to work. I think I can. So we'll catch up with you guys in here in a little bit. I ended up welding up the forks completely, and they are pretty much all ready to roll. So this is how they're looking. I know the welds aren't the best, but hey, a grinder makes me the welder I ain't, so I ain't really too worried about them. They should be plenty strong. Now I just gotta wait till this rain dies down so I can at least lay a nice coat of paint on them. And then I also need to mock up the wheel because I ended up having to chop the mounts down so I can weld these bars on. So I'm gonna end up just having to weld a new mount for my fender, which is over there. So I'll figure that out whenever this thing's pretty much ready to go. But for right now, I ended up getting the new little suspension kit for the seat to come in. So it's literally just 2 springs and a little hinge. I think it's for like a Harley Davidson. It was like 10 or 15 bucks on Amazon. So I thought, why not buy it, see what I can do. Maybe I can get this to work with the seat and kind of the setup, but I don't know. I'm kind of just toying around with it real quick. I did pull off the seat, so now I can kind of get a better idea of how everything's gonna look. And I got the hinge, that should go on there no problem. The only thing is these springs are a little tall, so I don't think I want my seat to sit 3 inches above this frame here. So I think I'm gonna end up cutting these things in half. So then I'll at least have a half a spring on each side, which will raise it only like 1.5 inches-ish. And then if anything, I can have another spring that I can cut in half as well to add like 2 more springs up front here or something, just to make it a little bit more balanced out and kind of actually have a little bit of spring to it. So I'm gonna start toying around with this idea, see what I can do with the seat and mount it on the frame there, and I'll kind of update you guys when I got an idea of what to do. What's up, guys? So it's actually been a few days since I last worked on the off-road mini bike. Ended up working on the NA Miata this weekend, putting the diff back in it and getting that running and driving again. So if you haven't seen that video, I suggest you go check that out. But now we're back working on the off-road drag bike this week, getting this thing all finished up with the custom forks. And I think I left off with building some suspension for the seat and doing all that. I did end up chopping one of those springs in half and then mounting it on the bike, but I really didn't like how it came out because the seat had like 2 to 3 inches of gap in between the seat and the frame, and it kind of just made the seat kind of all wobbly and all that. So didn't really like it. Ended up putting it back to stock and putting everything all back together. Took it out this weekend, so you can kind of tell there's some extra mud all over the place, but we're back working on it this week. So I'm gonna actually start by tearing off these old forks because this weekend I ended up blowing out the bearing on the bottom of my fork there, so I ordered up some new ones in that little brown box there. So I got to get those replaced, and then at the same time I want to start mocking up these new forks with the wheel on the front, and then we can start figuring out where the fender's gonna mount up so I can build the tabs off that, get that welded up, and then we can finally paint these babies up and get them mounted up on the bike and see how it's gonna look all raised up with some ground clearance now. So I'm gonna get to work on ripping this old forks off. I'm probably just gonna lean the handlebars up and over the seat just so I don't have to disconnect any of that. Quick and easy, and then just pull off the main bolt there. Probably end up swapping the bearings out real quick just because it shouldn't be too bad, but we'll see. And I might see how bad they're actually blown apart because this thing's got some play in her, that's for sure. Just ended up pulling the forks off the front, and I didn't end up destroying any of the bearings, which I'm actually pretty shocked about. This was under there, so I must have put like some nylon washer underneath there, and then over time it just slowly wore out and it ended up being pretty much nothing, and it just loosened itself up a little bit, and I wasn't able to really access this top bolt, so I was never able to really tighten it any more than it was with the handlebars on there, so I never really touched it or even looked at it. So that's probably my whole reason that thing had a bunch of play inside of it, so I'm pretty happy about that. So now I'm gonna end up pulling that wheel off, the fender off the old forks, get it mounted up on this new forks here, start mocking everything up, and then we can see how it's gonna look. Ooh, this thing's looking sweet. Getting all the ground clearance now. So I just got the new forks all bolted up with the wheel on there. And it's still propped up on some wood, but it's just barely floating. Like, this wheel's just got enough for my finger to slip under. So this is pretty much how it's gonna sit. It's definitely looking a little weird right now without the bars on there. So eventually I'll mount those up. I'll probably end up just painting all these up first just so I can bolt everything together for the final time. But I ended up just finding a little piece of scrap metal, so now I can bolt that up to the fender and then start lining that up in here, figuring out where the fender is gonna go. I really want to get that nice and strong just so I can pretty much have any mud, rocks kind of throw up at that fender and not have to worry about it flying off or any of that. So get that all finished up and then we can finally sand down these bars, get them painted up, bolt them on the bike for good, and then she's all looking good. So I did end up just putting a new little nylon washer inside of there, so I seems like that's just going to be kind of like a wear item. So I do have a few of those, so if anything I can just replace them as I go throughout time with the bike. But so far this thing's got like 20 hours on it and it just went out, so it's really not too bad. So I'm gonna get to work on mounting this fender all up there, get it all mocked up, probably end up tacking it on there, and I'll show you guys once the fender's all bolted up there, and she'd be looking good. So I just ended up welding up the fender mount and getting that all finished up, and then I just ended up mocking up everything completely just so we can get a final look of what it's gonna look like. And this is how she's looking. So I ended up just putting a little piece of wood under the handlebars and I just test fitted everything. Nothing's tight or nothing's bolted together. I just wanted to make sure everything all fit together nicely, and it did. So everything's looking good. It definitely looks a little weird from the front, I'll give it that, but from the side definitely looks a lot better. Leveled out the frame a ton, and it just makes it feel so much better just sitting on the seat with the handlebars up there. It feels so much more comfortable. So I might just figure out something. I can try to put something in that center section, I don't know. But once I actually get my LED bars, I do have an LED bar bracket and lights. It just ended up breaking the bracket, so I got to rebuild that. So they'll go right up on the fork section there. So it kind of fill in that section a little bit, but this is looking so much better. So now everything's all mocked up. I know everything fits. I can finally pull off these forks, get them all painted up, and then we can mount it up for the final time and take this thing for a test drive with it all lifted up with all the ground clearance now. What's up, guys? So it's actually 2 days later now. Yesterday I ended up spending some time sanding down the forks pretty much most of the way. They still came out all right, and then painted them up real nice, let them dry overnight, and now bolted all back on the bike. So the bike is finally ready to go, and this is how she's looking. So this thing is just looking sweet. I am super stoked on how these bars came out, and the black matches nicely. The only thing is the paint didn't dry 100%, which is weird because I let this dry for 24 hours. It's just still got that little bit of tackiness, but you can still see your fingerprints. But other than that, I was able to put it all together, and just got a couple little spots where these bars are gonna get beaten up anyways once I take it off road. As you can tell by the rest of the frame, got pretty beaten up over the little bit of road this thing. But other than that, I'm stoked with this. Now I have all the ground clearance I need, leveled out the frame nicely, and this thing's pretty much ready to hit some trails now. So I think I might test this thing out, ride it around a little bit, just make sure everything feels good. Then I might strap you guys up my chest cam and we'll go for a little ride with this thing. Alrighty guys, so I've been riding the bike around for a little bit now. She feels amazing, so much better, and you can just tell how much more ground clearance it has now. And I just took it out to a local spot right near my house, so we can ride a little bit of trails, a little bit off-road, nothing too crazy, so just simple, but should be a nice little ride. So let's get this baby started up. First pull. I do ride this bike on my knee going through off-road just because it's a little bit more comfier than bouncing pretty much off the seat, and it just makes it a little bit easier to ride and not get my feet covered in whatever's in here. So it should be pretty good for you guys. But yeah, we'll just cruise around, hit some trails. I know there's a couple of sidewalks that we can cruise through here, but so much better. I can pretty much drive over anything now. That's why I built this kid place. You like something like this? Just take it right out. Oh, they're falling on me. I might need to tighten this baby up a little bit. It seems to be holding up pretty well though. Don't see any flexing or anything in the bars, so that's a good sign. Ride's so nice. Ooh, this is a little trail section I want to hit. This one's a little funner sitting down. I can sit down for this one. Alright, so there's 2 in a row. Oh my god, I was not expecting the second one. The second one just went launching off the bike. Oh, the forks looking good. I think we're looking good. Oh yeah, they're solid. Alright, I'm probably just gonna cruise home because I think it was enough testing. Have a little fun on my way out. And I'll catch you guys at the crib. So I just got back to the shop and everything is good so far. Bike held up amazing. And I'm super happy with how this thing came out. It rides so much better. Got all the ground clearance I need. I was watching back some of the footage. I am sorry about that angle. I really need to put my head cam on just so get a little bit more perspective for you guys. You guys can actually see what I'm looking at when riding up on my knee, driving off-road or whatever. Sitting down doesn't look too bad, so I'll put a couple of those clips in there. But other than that, I'm super happy with how the bike came out today, and it looks pretty dang sweet. So now that she's all filthy, I gotta clean her up, but the forks came out nicely. It definitely look a little weird in the front, so I might try to figure out something to kind of fill up that little area, but definitely fits the whole bike style a ton better now with the off-road tires and stuff. And I don't think I ever talked why I'm not going with suspension forks that you can buy, because all the ones I find, they're too short. They're the same size as the stock forks, which are over here. They're about the same length. I did my measurements and stuff. They're all about the same length, and it won't really raise the bike up as much as I needed to, so that's why I built these custom forks. I do want to try to plan some different style suspension that has like a little bit of like a lever kind of style towards the front wheel, but it might extend it too much and make it look a little funky. That's why I was trying to go for the seat suspension, so I'm gonna still try to figure out that idea at the same time. But other than that, I'm happy with how the bike came out today, so I'm probably just gonna end up cleaning that thing up and putting it away until next trail day with the boys. But other than that, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, hope you like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more content, and peace out.